go live with Professor Diva and yours truly, Kimmy. Let's talk about breaking the professional spirit. The term breaking spirit is often considered a personal term used in a personal space. However, someone's spirit can be broken at any time in any space. To break someone's spirit is to destroy his or her self esteem. Diva Professor, have you have your spirit ever been broken?
Oh, yes, Kimmy, it has many a times. But my worst experience ever was while I was on the job. I kept second guessing my strengths. Actually, I didn't even think I had strengths given. I was so torn. There were moments of several panic attacks. When someone breaks your spirit, Kim, you feel hopeless. You feel worthless. I reached a point where I really didn't want to go to work. I preferred staying home. And even then, I was worried that me staying home might mean something to somebody else. So I went and I would sit in my car for hours before I would go up the stairs because I didn't want to face what I was experiencing.
Do you want to explain what you mean by second guessing yourself?
Okay, well, I consider myself strong willed, right? And I consider myself good at what I do. Maybe I'm overly confident or was overly confident at the time. So when I got my assignments, I would assume that they were done to the best of my ability. But at work, that was not so. It was more about whether my feeling was worth anything based on how the meaning, the critiques came. They were not about building me as a person. They were not about teaching me anything. It was more breaking my spirit and making me feel less than anything that I've ever felt in my entire life. So at that stage in my life, I was in a very dark place. I was vulnerable. I never could focus on the task without questioning whether or not I was doing the work in their minds very well. Um,
So
what
you
was
were,
sad,
go ahead.
Kimmy, was that it was not just one person, it was a board. So imagine you sitting in front of a group of people who, instead of correcting you, because in my mind, everything that you do, there's always something that you could do better. So it's not that I was afraid of being critiqued, but in a space I felt like I was being criticized, right? And so I reached a point where before I would do any presentation to these board group of persons, I would seek affirmation from my fellow colleagues, right? So picture you sitting in front of even persons who report to you to find out whether or not you are doing well to present in front of your supervisors, for want of a better word. That's what I was going through. So I never had any feeling of worth, right? I felt worthless on a job that I thought I was doing good at.
So you were emotionally beaten down. You move from being strong willed to losing self. When
Yes.
someone's spirit is broken, it is not just emotionally, but affects them physically and mentally. Did anyone know? Did you seem or relate to you differently?
I don't know if they knew Kimmy because as a leader, you put your best foot forward on the job and you become not really yourself, but you're pretending that everything is okay. So I don't know if anybody knew at that time what I was facing. Did staff or my colleagues relate to me differently? Yes, because no, I would be seeking the same support that they would want from me as a leader. So I would go to them to find out, okay, how did this sound? Is this presented properly? Did I miss anything? They didn't say anything to me, so I can't say that they knew. But whenever there was a board meeting coming up, the anxiety and the panic came in a lot more. So I think they knew, but because they reported to me, they didn't say anything.
All right, so talk to me a little bit more about the physical side of your experience. So in essence, work began to make you sick. How many people can honestly say they love their jobs? You love what you do, but not the job. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, work began to make me sick. I was sleeping less. I was losing my hair. I was having sporadic menstruation. I hope I'm not grossing anybody out here, but that's what I was experiencing. I would be seeing my menstruation twice in 1 month for 10, 15 days. And I recall, Kimmy, one evening, I was preparing for a board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And you know your phone pings, right? At the time it was BlackBerry. I had a BlackBerry. So it pinged. And I recall very vividly a name popping up to say that I'll be attending the board meeting tomorrow. And I just started to cry. I started to cry because that person had a lot of clout. And so when they spoke and they were the most negative of the group, when they spoke him, it's like everything went wrong in the board meeting. I got nothing right. You know, I got nothing right. I question every single statement that is made. And it was just heavy. It was just heavy, and you didn't have anybody to really back you. I can't go to staff go complain about it. So I guess
you were literally on your own.
I was literally on my own,
So
sucking it up, moving on.
So these were persons who should be guiding, because at the board level, they're only supposed to be guiding and not be integral in the working process of the organization. But you're being bashed. So how did you function where that is concerned?
Well, it reached a point where you just do as you're told. You know, it reached a point where you question nothing, you just act, because that was what was required of you. I think professionals forget that there's feelings in professionalism, and that at the end of the day, even though it's about the work, you're speaking to somebody. You know, I think we lose track of that as a professional. So in that space, while I loved my job, while I loved what I did, I didn't really like showing up. I didn't.
All right. So during these times,
yes,
were you looking forward to going to work? How did the weekend look for you, knowing you had work on Monday?
Okay, so weekend. Fridays were my best days. Oh, yes. I look forward to Fridays because it would mean, one, I would not have to see anybody on a Saturday. Everything was good Saturday. I was functional. I would sleep late. I would get up and I would just have this boost of energy. Sunday, all was well until the night.
Oh, Lord.
When nights came, every Sunday night, it was a literal kill for me, because then I would know that I would have to go to work on a Monday. And my expectation on a Monday would never be anything comforting, because already I would be placed in a mode of, I don't like to use the word defense, but really and truly, it's like you're putting on your armor to go to work, not knowing what
you're going to war on a Monday, literally preparing oneself to war, so to speak, mental anguish.
Yeah, but war is when two persons are fighting. I was silent. So it's more me going into a ring being beaten up than me going to war. because I had no defense, even though I had my shield. You know, I had no defense. Even when I was I hate talking about it. I'm trying not to get emotional, but truth be told, my spirit was broken to the point where I was a professional walking dead, if that's a good thing to say.
Mm. So you're at work, you're not comfortable. Did you ever think of leaving the job?
Yes and no. I thought about leaving the job, but when I thought about leaving the job, I felt selfish. I'll explain what I mean by that. No, as a leader, you see yourself as the person to, well, I saw myself as a protector of my team, right? I had persons in the office who depended on me to be the cover for them, to protect them from the outbursts, to be the middle person. So I took the bashing, but they would never know because I would present it in a different way. The criticisms I would not present in that way. You know, I recall thinking about leaving, and it just saddened me. I was broken because I would be leaving persons in a space that I know is not healthy. And for me, that was worrisome. So while I wanted to leave, I didn't want to leave them, you know?
So you're protecting the staff. Staff is unaware of that. To what point?
I'm protecting the staff. They're unaware to the point where I decide to just let them know. It was becoming so toxic that I would be going into the office, having to turn back. Visiting the doctor a lot more because, as I mentioned earlier, I was menstruating a lot longer than I was supposed to. My hair was falling out. And even though I wore wigs, because at the time I was locking, so I actually developed alopecia in that space. And I would make jokes about it. But there came a point where I really had to be honest with them. And I'm tearing up here because I loved what I did. You get what I'm saying? I really did. I loved what I did. I love being around these individuals of persons who, and this I'm talking about my staff and colleagues now, who we had a space of empowerment, a space of family, you know? But at the end of the day, the board didn't, who I believe was the anchor of the organization, didn't really anchor me as a leader. And so I had to come clean. I didn't tell them everything, but I made it very clear that, you know, professionally, I loved what I did, but personally, it was affecting me. And I think it was time for me to separate, not from them, but from the work.
So you're trying to cope with this, your spirit being broken to protect your staff.
Yes,
your staff is now aware of what is happening. Yes. How did staff react?
You know what is funny? They were not surprised.
Oh.
They were not surprised. So all along, I thought that, you know, they didn't know. But the hints were there. They knew. They were not surprised. And they were very supportive of me leaving. But there was also the mixed emotion. One person asked me, so, Petter, because I allowed them to call me by my first name. So what we're going to do? Who is going to guide us on how to speak? And I realized that even though I was seeking affirmation from them, they were also seeking the same affirmation from me. And even though I was thinking I was protecting them, protection was two-way. You know, a lot of times as professionals, we believe that our subordinates don't feed off of our energy, off our emotions they don't know. But the truth is, it's no different from a parent-child relationship. You understand me? So
Yeah.
when the leader is down, it affects the team. And when the team is down, it affects the leader. And so coming to them and being honest, it actually took a weight off me. But at the end of the day, I still felt heavy knowing that I was leaving them and not being able to protect them anymore because I would not be physically there. So I kept looking. I told them I was, but I wasn't really looking. I did interviews, but I don't think I put my best foot forward either because I was like stalling and wanting to leave. You know, it wasn't easy at all. But telling them was the best thing I ever did because things really went differently. You know, they were more cautious and more conscious of how we did what we did and how we operated and navigated as a team.
Okay, so the staff is now aware of what is happening. And how did production look after that? I hear when you're saying that they were more cautious. How did productivity look?
Well, productivity. All right. So even before me telling them persons didn't want to stay late, they would stay late because that's how I operate. I work late. I've never told any of my staff to stay with me or stay behind, but they did out of respect and loyalty. So production wasn't at its optimal. Why? Because you didn't have the opportunity to be innovative. You didn't have the opportunity to think outside the box. You were curtailed by the persons who now became the you said guide. Okay, so the guide basically puts you in a box and tells you how to operate. And you put your staff in a box and tell them how to operate. And if they went outside of the box, you would have to put them back in the box because out of fear of being disrespected or degraded in front of what you would call your colleagues, because you saw the board as part of your colleague, right? You
Right.
saw the board as your network of professionalism. You saw the board as your guide, as you rightly said. So professionals don't want to say that they make mistakes. Leaders don't want to use that word, but yeah, we do make mistakes. And the board has a responsibility to not just me, but the stakeholders, including the staff, to ensure that those mistakes never go outside of the boardroom, right? But the truth is, the criticism went outside of the boardroom.
What do you mean it went outside of the boardroom?
You had board members who actually went ahead and gave instructions to your staff. So now your staff was the one coming to you to tell you what those instructions look like.
So you were being undermined.
Well, if you want to call it that.
Well, that's being okay. Interesting. Interesting.
And
So,
and I must add, not that I'm saying anything, but I was young. I know I look young now, but I was young, younger.
you were younger. So, did you eventually leave?
I did.
Tell me a little bit about where you went to.
Well, I left thinking that leaving the environment would heal me. But I was a broken professional walking, you know? So when I went to this new space, even though these persons were taking me based on the merits of my resume, and they affirmed me in that way, they looked to me for guidance and decisions and to be a part of the group. Even their affirmations meant nothing. I questioned myself. I would send an email and I would quickly run to my phone to read it to see whether or not I had said the right thing. I would be in staff meetings and I would still be silenced. I would be asked questions. I remember one day, my supervisor at the time, he said to me, you know, we appreciate how in-depth you are when you send out documentation. The clarity is on point. You put an effort in ensuring that nothing is misunderstood. And in his head, he thought he was complimenting me. In my head, I was saying, yeah, because I don't want anybody to say that I'm going outside of what I'm required to do. And so because of this brokenness, innovation, vision was not within me. It took a very long time in that space, Kim, for me to accept that I was bringing any worth. What was good though was that my colleagues were very supportive. And I remember I had one, I was in the office once. I don't know if it's luck, but you know, men, they are a little less brass than women. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that because we're both women, right? But we're a little less opinionated. Let me use that word. Men are less opinionated and they are better listeners.
Okay.
So the division that I was placed in had majority males, older males, and so I became little sister.
Ah.
And I recall one day we were working on a document, and I mean, in their minds it was finished. In my mind, no, it's not finished yet. It's not perfect enough. And he paused and he said, listen, I'm not going to call his name out of respect for him, right? Because I didn't get permission to. But he paused and he was like, hold up, what is going on? Every time we have any group assignments, this is what we go through. At the end, we are finished, you're still working on it. Why? And I started to talk about what I went through. And I think that's where my healing came in. I didn't stay at this place for very long, but in the 4 months that I was there, it was therapeutic. Because every time I started to question myself, my colleagues would take the questioning out and start saying to me, what do you think about your assignment? Why do you think it isn't good enough? Is it because you did it? Well, think of us putting our efforts in it. And when I realized that it was not about me, it was about us, I realized that the board made it about them, Kimmy, and not about the organization. And that was a turning point for me. And so when I did my assignments, the first thing I ask up to this day is, how will it be beneficial to those who need it best?
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing, Petal. Interesting, Professor Diva. So you love what you do, but not the job. A broken spirit.
Not the job at all. The job was toxic.
So a broken spirit can occur anywhere. As human beings, we need to be very cautious of our words and our attributes, or better yet, our attitude when we speak. Many people in many different situations and settings and are spoken to in a demeaning and belittling manner. It can also happen to any employee being bullied by their supervisor or vice versa, resulting in a person feeling rejected and unwanted. A professional who is broken can be left in a state of depression, which can also result in suicidal thoughts, because in many cases, the person has been conditioned to believe they are not worthy of not only happiness, but also life. Diva Professor, we will continue this conversation next week as you share your workplace bullying experience. Till next time, we are your hosts, Diva Professor and Kimmy. See you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.